So how is Clash by Night different from all other Fritz Lang movies? Nobody dies. In all his other films, let's leave out the technicality of the woman in the window, death is either a starting point, a turning point, or the finale. So it's interesting to note that Clifford Odets' original play has that death. Jerry kills Earl in their climactic fight for May. Lang wanted to keep it that way. But as I said at the top, these were strange times in Hollywood. Congressional scrutiny was stuffing the noir genie back in the lamp. And savvy producers like Jerry Wald knew that if you wanted to make a film in the early 50s that was fueled by sex, you had to tidy things up at the end, straighten the cross on the wall, and reaffirm those marital vows. So Earl gets a reprieve in the movie version, and they all go on to live miserably ever after. Earl's death wasn't all screenwriter Alfred Hayes changed from the play. At Jerry Wald's insistence, he cut virtually all the text about class warfare, a staple of the 1930s proletariat theater that spawned Clifford Odets. The film stuck to the personal lives of the characters, not the social and economic pressures beating them down. Now, Alfred Hayes was a gifted writer, but he couldn't drain all the verbosity out of Odets. As great as the actors are, and as much as Lang and cameraman Nick Musaraka strive for a natural tone and feel, a stage play still erupts at times in the middle of the movie. Alfred Hayes is a fascinating, if largely unknown figure. He was a reporter for the New York Daily Mirror during the Depression, but he became most known for a poem he wrote about the 1915 murder of IWW labor organizer Joe Hill. Composer and singer Earl Robinson put it to music, and I Dreamed I Saw Joe Hill Last Night became a folk classic, covered by everybody from Pete Seeger to Joan Baez. Hayes began writing novels as a soldier in World War II, and he stayed in Italy after the war, where with the covert cooperation of the U.S. Office of Strategic Services, he worked on two films essential to the Italian neorealist movement, Vittorio De Sica's Bicycle Thieves and Roberto Rossellini's Paisan. In Hollywood, Hayes' screenplays included Teresa, The Lusty Men, Human Desire, The Left Hand of God, and A Hat Full of Rain. His 1958 novel, My Face for the World to See, is one of the best noirs ever written about Hollywood. To promote Clash by Night, whiz kids Jerry Wald and Norman Krasna did a very underhanded thing. They had borrowed Marilyn Monroe from 20th Century Fox, knowing that the actress had posed for nude photos in 1949. Fox had diligently kept this under wraps, but RKO felt no such compunction. They exploited it, sub rosa, in the film's PR, which was crushing to the already insecure and somewhat unstable actress. Coming to her defense was co-star Barbara Stanwyck, who advised Marilyn to defiantly own it. Just admit she posed to pay the bills during hard times. Precisely what Stanwyck had done when, as a Ziegfeld girl in the 20s, she posed for nude portraits by Albert Cheney Johnston. In 1953, only months after the release of Clash by Night, Monroe was Hollywood's hottest new star, and her nude calendar shot was featured in the first issue of Playboy, for which Hugh Hefner paid $500, none to Marilyn. Stanwyck also protected Monroe in her own sly way from Fritz Lang's constant belittling. Monroe was already demonstrating the bothersome behavior that would become her trademark, showing up late to the set and being unable to function without her personal coach, Natasha Lattès, close by. Lang was so hard on her, Marilyn vomited from anxiety before every scene. When it finally came time for her to perform with Stanwyck, the most revered pro in Hollywood, Monroe was so nervous she blew 26 consecutive takes. And Stanwyck never said a word, which put Fritz Lang in his place. If Queen Babs didn't lose her cool, neither could anyone else. Stanwyck was just as frosty when reporters flocked to interview Marilyn, not the old pro who was headlining the movie. When asked her opinion of her young co-star, Stanwyck drolly told reporters, "When you've got a figure like that, you don't have to act." Now, Stanwyck would later admit that working with Monroe could be exasperating, but there was no denying she had a magic that was obvious to everyone. Now, if this week's pairing of Barbara Stanwyck and Robert Ryan was a little too hot for you, maybe next week's picture will be a bit more your temperature. For the first time, Noir Alley will feature the coolest screen team of the 1940s, Alan Ladd and Veronica Lake, and their first film together, 1942's This Gun for Hire. It's a landmark in the development of film noir and a lot of fun in the bargain. So join me back here next week. I know you will, because Noir Alley is like home. It's where you come when you run out of places. See you next week.